Okay, we're recording this meeting, so I'm gonna turn it over to you, David.
Perfect. So on the last Zoom that we did, or the last training that we did, we talked about actually assembling the upright action. And today we're going to be talking about how to regulate our upright action model. So I'm going to go throughout the group and just ask, okay, what are some of the core tools, regulation tools in upright regulation that I'm going to need? And we'll see if everybody has them all, or at least can name them all. And so let's go ahead. I'll start, get the ball rolling. Probably need combination tool handle. What else?
T-dip block.
The new Artisan tool.
The new Artisan tool. Not quite there yet, but you are right, Victor. We're going to need some kind of a regulation gauge.
Capstan. Wire bending.
Capstan adjuster, and I also heard a wire bender. Yes. You guys are on a roll.
A damp.
Go ahead, Janice. You're close. What was it?
The spoon bender.
Spoon bender.
Spoon bender. You got it.
T-dip block.
You know what? With the action models, we don't use a dip block, and I will show you what we use instead. Combination tool handle, Phillips head screwdriver. Yes, that is true. You do need the Phillips. I just have a screwdriver, so. We also need this guy, our lovely multi-angle wire bending tool, which I absolutely love. There's two more things that are helpful in this.
Hey, buddy.
There's a tool to put the corks for the
there is straps. You're right, Janice, there is. I don't remember what that tool is called, but we're not going to be putting in the cork style on this one. But what we are going to do is need to adjust the let off. You all, this is my favorite upright let off tool. So if you don't have one of these, I highly recommend it. It's this barrel shape, which allows you to really get in, and it's a combination tool, but it's this barrel shape one, and it's fantastic. It makes light work out of everything. We're also going to need these little tweezers, you know, because I got big fingers sometimes and it doesn't go in right. But the final thing that we're going to need to do to regulate an action model, just so you all know, if you're going to take the RPT exams, you're going to need some kind of a micrometer or some kind of a measuring tool, like a little 6-inch ruler.
That's for the hammer blow?
You know what? Actually, for the key dip and level stuff. So we're looking at this upright action model.
I won't be on here long.
And so what you have to work with is just the single note. So we need to figure out how to do dip, but the first thing that we need to do is establish our key height. And so can anybody give me a range from the key height, what it should be? And that is the key height from the bottom of this to the top of that key. It's a measurement that a lot of people miss and a lot of people don't know about, but there's a general spec in between X and Y. Does anybody know what that is? It's okay if nobody does. That's a kind of a obscure one.
Isn't it like 1 5/8
inches? Can you go millimeters, Janice?
No. No.
1 5/8 inches. Let me go ahead and I'm just going to make this 1 5/8 inches. So that'll just be over that.
And you're going from the key bed up to the bottom of the key or the top of the key?
Top of the key. So the key bed to the top of that. I'm going to go to what I think it should be, and then I'm going to go ahead and try to, let's go. And what did you say, Janice?
1 5/8 inches?
Nope.
No?
3 millimeters below the top of the key slip.
One more time.
3 millimeters below the top of the key slip.
That would be super helpful if there was a key slip. But you don't get that in these action models in the RPT exam. So you have to work with, usually they will give you this one measurement. They will say it is 60 or 65, roughly in between there as your height. So that is the bottom right here to that. So let me see if I can get a better angle. But we're going from the bottom of the key bed to the top of this plastic.
Like
so that's what we're going to do. This is roughly 65 millimeters.
2 3/8.
Is that what that is? 2 3/8?
Maybe.
I go halvesies. I go like sometimes I'm talking to you in millimeters and other times I'm in inches. So today we're doing 65 millimeters for this guy. And so what I'm going to do is actually add some balance rule punchings to this. Now, what we're going to do in today's lesson is actually establish our key height, and then we're going to kind of mess around with some of the other measurements. So what we're going to do is probably do an initial first run of our standard measurements. So that would be a 10 millimeter key dip. What would my let off be if we're just going to shoot for standard? Whoa.
1/8.
1/8, you got it. What will my back checking be?
5/8.
Yep. And my blow distance?
1 3/4.
1 7/8.
Say it again.
7/8. 1 7/8.
You got it. 1 7/8. So those three measurements make up the after touch. What do they call it? A triad? Is that what I heard somebody say the other day? The triad. So you got your blow distance, your dip, and your let off. I'm just gonna check this real quick. All right. So there we go. I'm right at 65 millimeters. So at the very least, this now has the proper height. So
When you're
go ahead.
when you're
Justin.
adding the paper to the balance rail,
Yep.
does the front of the key go up the same exact amount as the paper, or is it like a ratio?
You know what it is? It's actually, I've heard somebody say it's roughly half the amount. And so if you put something that's 1/1000th of an inch, it's going up 5/100ths of an inch or something along those lines. I don't know how
Okay.
accurate that is, but I've never kind of gone into that. I do know that there's some technicians that will do that. They'll put a straight edge over the keys, the key level, and then they'll just kind of put some punchings in there in between that spacing and do it that way. I've never done it that way, to be honest with you. I've just kind of developed my own like rhythm for it. One of the things I'm noticing right away is as I'm pressing down the key, I got some major stuff happening. Can anybody tell me what I'm experiencing? Again, I'm going to go ahead and push down on the key.
No
What's going
let
on?
off.
Not enough.
Boom! Janice for the win. Gee, man.
How many of those do you think I've done?
So she's right. You remember last lesson we went ahead and put on that key button, or excuse me, that let off button, but we didn't regulate it. So just to get this note to play, we have to do some of this stuff. So I'm using this special awesome tool right here, combination barrel. It's a combination tool. It's that barrel style let off, and it just goes right in there. I'm going to adjust this let off down, and boy, it's just not going.
And it's not hitting the back check either.
It's not getting to let off yet. Oh, so now we have another set of issues. So check this out. I'm going to go ahead and play the key. One of the things I'm noticing is, yeah, it's letting off, but look at that. What is that extra pushing?
Too much motion.
Too much what?
Lost motion.
Too much lost motion. Actually,
Isn't it the back check hitting too quickly?
it is, but there's a reason for that. There's several reasons. Let's see if I can reset that. Here's a big one. Look at that. I'm touching and this is a good test for you all. Tap right here. And what's happening? What's that moving?
I don't know. Quit moving it, David.
Just
Can't
moving the
see it.
hammer.
Motion. Yeah.
So we need to go ahead
You
and
need a wink. Yeah.
so how would I fix that right here? There's no lost motion. I think Janice might even said that. What do I do to fix that?
Capstan.
Turn the capstan to the right.
Let's go lower that. Let's just go lower that. Now, there's probably a real major reason all this is happening. And can anybody guess that right
Blow
now?
distance is wrong.
Say that one more time.
Blow distance is too large.
Boom. Blow distance. So I'm just going to go ahead and check that. And so the blow distance is the distance between this hammer and that string. So we're going to use the not Artisan tool. And look at that. We got like a 1/2 inch. And so right away, we know that this is just all for naught. You're going to come to pianos like this where it's just like, geez, where do I start? Where do I start with this thing? So what I'm going to suggest we start with in this piano is actually establishing a basic key, a blow distance. So in order to do that, what tools and what supplies do I need?
Felt. A piece of felt to push the hammer rail up.
You need it exactly. So what we need to do is get a piece of felt and brace it in between the bracket and this hammer rest rail. Luckily, I have a piece of felt right here. So I'm going to try this dry first. I'm just going to put a piece of felt right here. Again, whenever you guys are dealing with replacing felts, make it nice and clean. You know, don't just like throw some sloppy felt in there and a bunch of glue. Make it clean. Make everything look factory if you can. So I just put that piece right there, and now I'm going to check it really quick. All right. So we're we're close-ish. We're close enough to kind of at least get some of the way there. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that into place. I'll probably have to glue one more, smaller piece on it, but I'm just going to go ahead and glue this into place while we work.
Is that just, what kind of glue is that?
It's just a simple crafting tacky glue.
Okay.
And so this is just something you can get at Michael's, Joann's Fabrics, Hobby Lobby, any of those places.
Walmart carries it too.
Walmart, yeah, this little store, mom and pop store called Amazon sells it too. So we got that. We got at least some kind of a blow distance established. And so what's another thing that we want to do before we go into setting our key dip? I'm just going to show you how it's playing now. We have some of this working. It's at least doing something more than just blocking.
Yeah, but the jack isn't sliding out well.
Yeah, why not? What 3 reasons could that be?
The capstan?
I'm trying to think.
No?
Kind of. There could be too much sloppiness. There could be too much aftertouch is what you're saying. So yeah, that could be it. That's probably some of it. But always go back to the 3. There's always 3 reasons that jack is not escaping, because that's what aftertouch is. It's the escapement of that jack in that amount. So what I want to do first, and this is something you all should do, is before you go and set your dip, or excuse me, your level and everything, is make sure that this key is being pressed down by the action. Because it is not great when you go through the entire level and you realize there was some sloppiness. And once you go and actually press down the weight of the action on that key, you have an uneven key dip. Or excuse me, key level. So what I'm going to do right now is, like Janice said, I'm going to adjust this capstan upwards. So I'm taking out the lost motion so that I know that there's pressure on this key. And then from there, I'm going to do a 10 millimeter key dip. And how am I going to do that? Seeing as there's no case parts and there's no other keys.
Measure the movement from where it is at 65 and then press it down and see if it goes to 55.
Boom! Janice, you're just on fire today. Yeah, what Janice said is exactly right. So if you have a 65 millimeter right here, this is 65, then we can just reset this to 55, which is our 10 millimeters, and we'll be off to the races. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and reset this micrometer. I'm going to zero it out and go 55 millimeters. I'll show you this really quick, really fast. 55. 5.1, that's fine. So this is what we're going to do. And so right there, I could see I need maybe 2 blues at the bottom of this. So I'm simply going to lift up. Also, I've seen technicians do this. Please, y'all, don't do this. And if you do it, just don't tell them that you learned from Artisan. But put the punchings underneath the felt. So many technicians do this sloppy thing where they're like, oh, I'm just going to put it on top. I hate that. Don't do that. Take the fraction of a second to put it underneath that felt.
Well, it can actually thump then if you put the.
It can. It has a whole bunch of little issues.
Right, and what's the point of putting in a piece of felt in if you're gonna put something on top of it and destroy the whole reason for the felt?
Exactly. So, y'all, we have our key height. We have a key dip. So where would be the next thing on our upright to establish, or do a final establishment, I should say? We've done the key height. We've done the key dip. What would be a next one to do?
The cat's talking to you.
Is that a
Checking.
cat?
Let off and checking.
Yeah, that's my cat.
You have two options to do, and one of them is let off. What's the other option that you can do next?
The checking.
We'd actually want to go back to our blow distance, because if you remember, I only did an initial basic and it's still not quite right. And so the way we can tell, but in going to your first thing, Victor, you're probably right. I'm going to go ahead and try to get a good let off and see what happens. So my let off should be what, Robert, did you say? What's the 1/8? Exactly.
1/8?
And we have, so this is how that tool is used.
Can you move it down? We can't see.
Oh, I'm sorry. How's that?
Thank you.
There we go. We got our let off, but I have no jack escapement. You can see right here, it's not escaping at all. And so that means if I've gotten my dip just right, I got my dip right, I got my let off right, there's only one other option to do, which is adjust my
Lost motion.
Nope.
Lost motion.
Nope.
Blow distance, right? Adjusting
Blow
the capstan.
distance. Yes. Blow distance. So that's what we're going to do next, is just say, okay, we don't have enough aftertouch. So am I going to be making a shorter blow distance or a longer blow distance? Am I going to be moving this hammer closer or further from the string in order to get more aftertouch?
Closer.
Closer. Because the closer we're able to move this to the string, the more this jack is going to escape from underneath that butt. So you're right. We're going to go ahead and slice off a little piece right here. And once we have all these established, the nice thing is when you actually do all these in this kind of order like this, it really breaks down the myth and the fear of it. But okay, so I've just kind of added a little piece. We're going to go ahead and see if that is right. I added way too much felt. It's just way too much. So I'm going to slice a smaller piece. And yes, you can use that roux glue. You could use that PVCE glue. I like to just go to the craft store and get that simple tacky glue just because it's really available. And usually for me, I'm not a great planner. So usually when I'm out. I just need to go to the store and grab some. Okay. Oh my gosh. This. Okay, so we're at 1 7/8 right now. We know our dip is right where it should be at 10 millimeters down. And so now if I go through let off, boom, let off, and we have just about an 1.5 to 2 millimeters of jack escapement. So we have enough aftertouch. So the next thing I'm going to do is just double check a couple things. One, I'm going to tap on this key like this. Make sure that hammer isn't moving, which it's not. I'm also going to double check that there's not too much lost motion, and there's not. I don't know why I haven't done this yet, but I'm going to go ahead and attach this bridle strap. And then the last thing I'm going to do is actually my back checking. What in the world? Oh.
David, I have
Yes.
a question for you. I know that the bridle strap has no effect on how it should work, the whole assembly. But I hear people all the time talk about that helps the hammer return. I mean, why is that a common belief that people have?
If this is, let's just show you. I'm going to go and pull it really tight. If this is adjusted, like as you can see here, it's really tight, right? And you're in this position, when it's bent that far back, it is helping that move back into position. But that is not its job, and you're causing potential issues. So one of the things is, check it out. Once I'm going up, we're putting a lot of tension on this bridle strap, and it's going to make the touch feel weird. Another thing is, let's just say we move and use our far left pedal, which is the soft pedal. Guess what? As soon as we start moving this, it's moving the entire mechanism, creating all this lost motion. So it's moving everything. It's not supposed to do that. In fact, what we're supposed to do is make it so that it goes all the way. It goes all the way up halfway before it actually even moves the mechanism. It should not have any bearing on that. And if you're hearing other people do that, I'm just going to say it, they're wrong. That's not the right way of doing it.
Then they must not have been taught by Artisan Piano.
They're not an Artisan Tech if they're saying that. You all are.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
When you say, so if I just understood you correctly, you're saying that the bridle wire should be set so that when you move the hammer rail up halfway, it doesn't engage the bridle strap until the hammer rail is halfway up. Is that what you just said?
So yeah, let me clarify. When you're using that far left pedal, the soft pedal, you want to regulate it to the point where it moves the hammers roughly as much as halfway to the string. Okay. So you'll adjust it. You'll put blocker bottom, felt at the bottom of the pedal. You only want it to go so far, right? And so from there, you'll go ahead and bend your damper or your bridle wires so that when you're doing that, you're feathering that pedal, it's not moving the key. You're not seeing any movement on the key. It's going like this. So if I need to do an okay shot, it's going like, dude, no, I'm not able to get it with this model quite right. But basically, it's moving halfway and it's not moving that key at all. That's how you regulate that. That's the regulation method for that. So again, it's never pulling anything back. It's not its job.
And when if they're too tight, is that what also causes the keys to kind of bounce?
Exactly. It'll cause the key to bounce. That's 100%. That means that bridle wire needs to be pushed further away from the player. Andy, how is yours? Okay, so now that you're doing that, go ahead and bend that one of those, maybe middle C, bend that bridle wire backwards to where it's really tight. That bridle strap is really tight, and see that wink, and you'll be able to see what we're talking about. It's bad.
Yeah.
And we've had people call us back if like, hey, we had another technician, but when I push just this pedal, my keys wobble. And we're like, okay, we'll come in and fix that. Because another technician thought that it's supposed to weigh the action and bring the action back. It's just not supposed to do that.
Do you want a demonstration of the key wobble?
Yeah.
I replaced all my bridle straps, but I did not adjust them properly.
Oh, perfect.
See if I can turn it around. Oh, I forgot to.
Yes. Yeah, you can see that. You can see that B key, especially. That's exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly it. So now you know you'll push those bridle wires upwards. Now, a food for thought. When you're doing that, this is very critical. When you're doing this, be sure to make sure that this bridle wire is not going to touch any of the neighboring back check wires, because that can make a little bit of a click and it is so annoying, or a little bit of a really creak because it's touching one of the other wires, either another bridle wire or a back check wire. And that is so unbelievably annoying. So let's just kind of do some fun things. Let's say this is an old upright piano and we can't get nearly enough key dip. For whatever reason, this is designed to be, there's just not enough. So I just limited, well, I almost did something wrong there. Put it underneath, everybody, all the time. You're gonna go ahead and just kind of look at this. And so I made it so that this key dip is not deep enough. So what am I gonna see at this other end?
There won't be any escape mat, right?
Yes. And so what, excuse me, there's no escapement. So what is that going to look like to the player or you when you play that note?
It's not going to return properly.
Yeah.
You're right. In fact, usually, what was that?
Is it going to stick?
It won't stick. Usually what it is it'll bounce. Let's see if it'll bounce.
You won't be able to play another note real easily.
That's right. Because it's double striking. That's exactly it. So, blah, 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 blah. So if we're saying, hey, we're 5 minutes from the concert. You know what? We're 5 minutes from the concert. This high performer is coming in to play this upright piano for Carnegie Hall. We need to fix this one note really fast. What am I going to do? Boom, Andy. Andy for the win. Yes, Andy got it right. The fastest, easiest, quickest thing to do would not be to redo all the key dip. It would not be to move the hammer line. It would be to simply give this a ton more let off. So let's try it. So now we have it so that it's acting better. I'm going to go ahead and just adjust the back checking a little bit. And now we have a note that is working. So that is the kind of stuff that we as technicians need to know this by like the back of our hands, so that we can be put in any of these positions and at the flip of the switch know that, okay, this is what, the customer only wants to pay for a tuning, but I have all these bobbling hammers. What am I going to do? I'm going to propose that we do everything. But in this case, they say, can you just fix it? This was an anniversary gift. I only have enough money. Can you just try to fix it? Sure. I'll go through let off really quick and make it so that we at least have some of this working. Questions? Hopefully that's helpful to kind of go into some of this stuff.
Hey, David, it's much more clear when you go through it like this than reading it in a book. Thank you. Thank you.
Good. I know I'm super dyslexic. So having somebody just show me and be able to ask questions is just like so incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I've seen this in a few pianos at schools. Whoever worked on them previously, for when the flange strings would break for that butt spring, they would. I've seen them put a lot of lost motion and change the let off to kind of solve that. I mean, it's pretty horrible.
So what he's talking about is when we have this, usually it's an old Yamaha issue where you have these corded butts, or corded flanges, and this return spring right here just flops. So a lot of times those will catch, it'll catch on that damper lever and you won't be able to play the note, or it'll make a click sound, or it won't return. Even though the pinning's good, it just won't return because we don't have that spring making it do so. Just so you know, buy the corded flanges. Don't try to do what I did early on in my career and save money and try to replace those cords. I did that, and it took, you can pop these off and back on in a matter of an hour and a half, or you can spend 3 days replacing those stupid cords. Lesson learned. I think they're cheap too. I think you can get a whole set for like under, I think they're like $50 for a whole set of like Tuckawea, whatever, corded flanges. They just slide right on.
If someone wanted to buy the action model, where would you suggest they buy it? They're kind of hard to find.
They're very hard to find. A lot of times you have to go on eBay.
Shaft carries them.
They carry the action models?
Yeah, single note. We were
Okay.
going to order some for the company for trainings, but I think they carry both.
Do you know what can you write down what the price point is? I'm so curious about that.
Yeah, that's
Another good
They're
place,
definitely
piano stores. Yeah, piano stores usually I always had one at every store I worked at. They would give it to the stores so we could like demo.
Yes.
But
Yeah, and that's what we got these from. We got these from piano stores that went out of business.
Yep, kind of look around. I think there's one in Arizona going out of business right now. So what was it?
Ooh, I should go, huh?
Wait,
What
who?
was it? Do you remember? We were talking about them. I'll find it.
Okay, David, can you give us the email address for Chef, please? I was trying to apply today, and I need to get that
Yep.
submitted to them, please.
We got it.
Yep,
So
same
what?
here.
Yep. So Stacy, you want to go ahead and put the email address in there? So what you'll do is you're going to see
Questions.
what? That's a great price, Victor. $185. Holy cow.
yes, and then $285 for grands.
Y'all. That's a great deal. So I mean that's pretty good.
That's from Schmidt?
No, that's from Schaff.
Oh, from Chef. Okay.
So when so Stacy's right now is putting the email of our contact in there. You can CC us or Stacy, myself or Stacy on that, saying, "Hey, I'm becoming a piano technician. I'm going with Artisan and learning from Artisan, and I want to get set up." And they're gonna treat you like royalty.
Yes, we'll make
Ask a
sure
tool
you get
question?
shop accounts.
Yeah.
What's a checkering file?
Yeah. Hold on just a
What does it
second.
do?
Say it one more time.
I was just wondering what it does. I don't even know what it is.
Sure, I'm gonna go grab it. So, see if I have it. Yes, I do. So what a checkering file does, it's really one of those tools that only does like one thing, which I'm not a fan of tools like that, but it's the only tool that does the one thing that you need it to do. So basically, when you have hammers, I'm gonna lower this. When you have hammers that aren't back checking, they're not checking, a lot of times that's due to the fact that the hammer tails have just become so smooth. They become so smooth or so rounded. And what you do is you use this checkering file to literally make channels. You hold that hammer and put it and go, you'll go this way with it from right to left, from right to left. And you'll make these little grooves in the back of that hammer tail, and that'll make it so that those back checks will catch on those tails. And again, I carry it in all of my toolkits because it's one of those things that you're on an old grand, it's bobbling. You're like, man, there's no reason it should. And then you pull those, look at those tails. I'm like, wow, that is smooth. It takes 5 minutes Be careful to hold the hammer just right because you don't want to break a flange. And I've done that many times. Not many times. I've done it. If you do it twice, it's too many.
When I was at the PTG conference, they said to also check the back checks for the grands like that, because sometimes the notches are too sharp and they'll start to dig into the back check and then they'll bounce even that way too.
100%. And a lot of times you'll know if they're too sharp by, if they're too blunt, they're not round enough, because you'll see big indentations in the back checks themselves in the buckskin.
I had a felt question. Someone had a felt question. Felt thickness. What do you have a standard of felt thickness for, like the back rail, front rail, damper rail, uprights is the same? I mean, is it just
No, it's piano to piano. Get us assortment of them. That's part of one of those things that every piano is so custom, and depending on how much wear is on the piano, how the parts have worn, you're going to have to manipulate things. So I really don't have a spec for that.
That's super helpful to know. I'm gonna share this. Are you ready for some more, David, questions?
I'm always ready for questions. I love this.
All right. This is a Somer. It's good old heirloom 110-year-old piano. Looks like the hammer butt felt has come off and it's blocking the hammer from returning. So here you go.
It's in horrific shape, but he wants this one key, which is the B natural below middle C, fixed. But that red felt, because I'm playing keys around it, and it's like it's popped off and it's blocking the hammer butt from coming back. I have to force it back. Half the bridle straps are gone, but that's the only key that at least doesn't play. But I'm thinking that's what it is. It ought to be an easy fix.
So what I'm seeing there, Robert, is if it's like this, that red felt that's there is this jack rest felt. So if I go through, and just take this, I'm curious. You got me curious now. So let's do this. Let's remove it. Robert, I care for you so much. I'm going to break this action model just for you, and we're going to fix it.
Awesome.
So I'm going to remove this by slicing it off and removing it. So what's it doing, Robert? Is it making
it's like half of it is unglued, and so it's just popping up and blocking that jack from returning.
Got it. So it's probably, like what you're saying is it's somehow stuck in this position. It's not letting that jack. So I would get your tweezers in there and go ahead and pull that from that buckskin. So you'll pull this, because I'm guessing what's happened is somehow it's lodged right here. So you'll pull it off, put a little bead of glue down there, and put it right on the backhand side of that jack. Does that make sense, Robert?
It does. So you wouldn't take that action out and take that whole hammer butt assembly off?
If I could avoid it, no. I would just put a little squeege of glue on that one. I would pull that red felt off, obviously. Take it and put a little bead of glue on that, and then just put it back into place, if possible.
Yeah, with the way that the bridle straps are, you probably don't want to remove the action if you can help it.
Exactly. Thank you, Thank you, Mike. That's exactly it. So I'm going to put this back on, make sure it's in place, get yourself some good tweezers, and it's simple as that.
Yeah, but it's a lot easier when you only have one key to move around. Doing it between all the rest is a little rough.
It's true. It's so easy. What's your problem?
Yeah.
More questions, Stacy, or is that it?
Oh no, there's more. Okay.
Okay.
This one looks tough.
So David, this is on my Thompson. So I have the string that needs to be replaced, and of course you can see here's the hitch pin, and the bridge, of course, is underneath the bass strings. Recommendations: do I need to loosen the bass strings to pop one off their hitch pins to get to it, or just use the screwdriver to try to edge the string into place? What's your thoughts?
I've done this before. How do I say it? I'll kind of demonstrate it. Okay, Michael? I'm going to cut a smaller piece so that you can actually kind of see what I'm talking about. All right. So let's say you're going to go and get your string, right? You're going to get your replacement string. And this is what I'm going to recommend you do. Let's do this. Just so you can see it. So you got your string. I would go ahead and get that full length made, right? So it's going to be what, 5 feet on either side?
Basically, yes.
So you're going to get that 5 feet on either side, and you're going to crimp it.
Right.
Go ahead and crimp it like this. And then what you're going to do is this. Cut a length and then feed that one string down through there
Right,
that
to
is
pull it back.
attached to
Right.
this.
You're fishing.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
not
that
going
part
to be
I'd already figured out. The part that I wasn't too sure is how in the world are you going to get it onto the bridge pins in place?
It's one of those things that's going to take a while and be a pain in the butt.
That's
This
what
is
I
another
figured.
one where I'm like, I don't know the stringing dowel well enough. I'm wondering if that would be one of those things that would work out really well. That dowel thing that you feed a string through.
Right.
I think Alan uses one of those, one of our techs. But there's going to be a handful of jobs that you're going to say, "Hey, what's the trick?" And I'm going to be like, "There isn't one. It just sucks."
Yeah, that's what I
one
was
of them.
afraid of. It's like, because look, because I knew about the broken string. I pulled the string out, but I never really had paid attention to where the bridge was until I started looking at it on Monday. And I got down there and was looking. I'm like, oh crap.
Can we see that picture one
Okay,
more
I'll
time?
wait on that.
So
Yeah.
you would not be cutting that extra piece of piano wire, correct? You just leave it on the spool and feed it through and then use that to draw the
No,
string?
I would cut a length of it, Janice. I would cut a 5-foot section and
So then
feed
you
that
should
through.
probably keep that forever and a day to use over and over again so you're not wasting piano wire.
You could. I'm really bad about as minimalist as I am. I'm actually also really horrible at wasting stuff. I'm bad at that. So you're right, but I'm working on that. I'm a work in progress when it comes to wasting stuff like that.
I would think you could leave it on the spool with the hook on, or not even put the hook on the end of it, but put it up straight, then put the hook on it and then draw it down. And not waste any more than a couple of inches of your wire.
Yeah,
It's
I
very
would treat it
possible,
similar to how
especially
I
if we've
ran
got these
cable
tires.
for IT jobs and running
Yeah.
networking cable.
Yeah.
I would run it the same way.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
That part I'm not worried about. The part that I'm worried about is getting the string onto the bridge pins and getting that in place. But it sounds like I just got to fiddle with it and get it there.
You do. Make sure to get one of those little baby clamps once you got it on there.
Yeah.
Is there a tool for that just does that thing?
Just the clamping?
No, to get the wire on that bridge.
Yeah, I think it's that stringing dowel. And you probably... Stacy, she knows. I have stuff I have to keep secret from you all for now. So I have to be careful. But this is not one of those things I have to keep secret. So this dowel right here is just like, a simple pipe. I think this is like a 3/4 or 1/2 inch, but you can get it like 1/4 inch. This might be worth experimenting with, Michael, is getting something like this that is really thin that you can feed that through and just drop it down.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that because, we have a hobby store near us that, sells, brass tubes and stuff. And I was thinking to see what they had there.
Yep.
Maybe a piece of copper.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Water
It'd be
pipe.
brass or copper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That'll be cheaper.
Yeah, you might even be able to get that at like Home Depot.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
For plumbing.
Yep.
Can I show you? Can I show off something?
Absolutely.
Oh, I gotta show you this. I put the kickboard on. And this guy is looking pretty good, huh?
Oh my goodness, Janice, that's amazing.
Yeah. I have figured out that I may not be able to get out of the dining room because I had the kitchen remodeled with the piano in the dining room, and I think the corner of the kitchen counter is now in the way, so I can't get the piano out of here.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know what I'm going to do.
That's
But
hilarious.
when I figure out that I have to move it, then we'll deal with that when that happens. But I looked at it the other day and I thought that's not going to pass underneath that counter now. So we'll see what happens. I may have to take a lot of the casement off to make it low enough to actually be able to pass it underneath the counter. All the things we worry about.
You know what? Working with piano moving, there have been so many times we were called to move a basement piano that they had remodeled the basement, and the piano, like, it's just like it's permanent. Like, unless they want to not, I mean, it's permanent. Like, we tried like all sorts of, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, yeah. Ooh, I have some more questions. Are you ready for some
Go for
more?
it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, hammer double striking on medium light blows. How do I address this?
Yeah, so it's probably an aftertouch issue. So that means, like, with a hard blow, you're pressing down further on the key, giving it more key dip, and that's allowing that jack to escape. So with this one is where it's probably not enough aftertouch. So you have 3 options. Everybody, what are the 3 options you can adjust to get more aftertouch?
Lost motion.
Blow distance, let off, key dip.
Yep, those 3. Those are always your 3. Those are always the 3 adjustments. Now, David, to your point, yes, when you adjust your blow distance, you always have to adjust lost motion after that. Yeah. But you're right, though, David. If there is a ton of lost motion, and I have seen uprights like this where there's just so much lost motion that you're right. A lot of times when I am able to fix that and bring it up, those capstans up, it solves that aftertouch issue because the jack is able to escape. So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Another one, if the jack isn't kicking out, how do I fix that on an upright?
The jack isn't kicking out, and are we saying that it's frozen in place, or are we saying that it's probably just it's an aftertouch thing. It's either going to be not enough key dip, not enough the right blow distance, or not enough let off.
Perfect.
Because usually those jacks are not frozen in place. There's a reason it's not kicking out, and it's because there's not enough aftertouch.
Okay, Andy, I'm getting to your questions that you currently going back and practicing aural tuning, having difficult hearing beats when tuning a unison. I can tell when it sounds right, but I'm not sure if I'm hearing and counting the beats correctly, if I'm mistaking the diminishing tone for the beat. What do you think?
Well, a unison, are we talking about, 2 strings? Because a unison shouldn't have any beats. It should just be pure. All 3 strings need to be just right. And so I don't know if that's what we're talking about, if we're talking about octaves, if we're talking about just a little bit of a stretch. I'd be curious if you have an ETD. And because an ETD, whether you're going to decide to use that 100% or not, it's a great tool for at least testing yourself. And so what I did early on is I did have access to an ETD. If I was hearing beats, I would just test myself with that and be like, okay, am I hearing something? No. Okay, great. I need to train myself to unhear that because I'm not hearing anything that's really matters.
I ran into one the other day that I was tuning that the center string, I think it was C sharp 6, I think it was. And no matter what I did, the beats wouldn't go away. So I muted both sides. I did like a mute test basically to see which string it was. And it was the center of the 3. And it just had all by itself. And the what do they call them, false beats, but
yes.
And I told the guy, the new owner of it, who bought it for $5 at an estate sale, he didn't care, right, at the end of the day. But me, I was like, this is excruciating. I'm dying right now.
Yeah.
And so it is what it is. But
Okay, so David, thank you for bringing that up. So in this, in the question, that is a very good point. You might have what they call false beats. That could be from a string node, imperfections in the scaling or the string itself, creating a beat in one of those strings. And the way you figure that out, if you're doing your unisons, is like, if you've turned, let's just say the middle one is out. It has a string nodes or it has false beats. You tune your far left string and you're like, okay, let's just say you tune it to the ETD. And now you're tuning your middle string to the far left string, and there's that beat. You're like, okay, what do I do? A lot of times I will go ahead and if I'm using an ETD, I'll go ahead and mute off, and then I'll tune like what David did, tune the far right string. So I know 2 of the 3 strings are just right. And then sometimes I'll just kind of manipulate that center to just do as much as I can to make it sound as good as you can, because I've gone into new $150,000 Busendorfers that have these false beats. You know, Stacy, you've worked in a lot of retail stores. Sometimes you get a new piano and it will have false beats. Boston pianos are notorious for this. So false beats usually are in the treble section, usually in, I don't know, C6. And that's where we see a lot of those. And there's just not a lot of things you can do except for kind of tune around them, like what David said with the muting and just kind of sectioning off and trying to blend them as much as possible. It's a good question.
Does rust on the string ever affect that? Because
Yes.
when I was tuning it, I mean, again, it was from, I think the last time it was tuned was in the 80s, and all the strings were rusty. And every time, you know, you go below pitch, above pitch, and then you settle down on the pitch. Every single one, when I would go the first move to go below pitch, I heard little popping and cracking on every single one of them. And I was just like, ooh, there's lots of rust in here. So I didn't know if the rust would affect the beat possibly.
Yeah. So a lot of times you're right. The rust can affect it, and that creates what's called string nodes, or just little pieces of rust, you know, droplets or so in the string itself, which can kind of create this weird vibration in the string. So yes, sometimes that does help by just kind of cleaning them off. Usually though, if we're having that much of an issue, we're like, hey, it may be due to restring this, replace this.
Right.
If they're that bad. But it really sucks when it's a guy's $200,000 Busendorfer. It's brand new and it has it. Then it's just kind of like, sorry.
Question for you.
Yeah.
If you had, let's say, a 3-string unison, and you have that, let's say, up in the treble end, would you ever consider just muting one of those strings and turning it into a 2-string unison so you don't get that false beat?
I've only had a handful. That's a great question, Janice. I've only had a handful of times where they were bugging me so much that I did that. But usually I'm able to manipulate the tuning enough and blend it to where it's fine. And a lot of times also, because I do a lot of voicing of the pianos when I'm tuning them, when you soften the sound of the pianos themselves, the hammers, it will kind of blend it as well.
Is that just like a sandpaper?
No, I actually use the needling tools. I'll go ahead
okay.
and use my needling tools and actually puncture the felt.
So the needling tool will soften the sound of the piano, not harden it, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
We're puncturing and opening up the felt, softening it. Well, let's go back. Certain hammers, if you puncture them at the walls of the shoulder, that will increase the density in the core. But what I'm talking about is actually for an upright. Just kind of voicing. A lot of times I'm just doing straight down, kind of right in between the strike points. So that's kind of what I'm talking about here. And yes, that softens the sound.
David, if you're muting a single string, how would you go about that to mute a single string?
I'll usually, again, because it's in the usually the treble side, I'll usually use the Paps mute. And I'll go ahead and let's just say I'm going to start tuning the far left string, which I always do. So obviously this is in between the middle and the far right. And then I'll go ahead and put this on the neighboring string and the far right string, and then kind of go back and forth. But that's how you would do it.
Well,
Is your
I was
question,
thinking
how do
if
I
you're
isolate the
permanently
middle?
muting because it has too many false beats, if you're are you putting a little wedge of felt on that one string to mute it? For permanently?
Permanently.
Oh, permanently? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to mute off the neighboring one as well. So like you just put a lot of times I'll do this. I'll just put a little piece of felt in there and I'll just kind of drape it between the bad one and the good one.
Even for a new piano wire, when it takes time to stretch, you say you need to come back in a month. Do you mute it the same way?
I do, yeah. And so to Janice's point, a lot of times if you're going to mute it off, it's not you're leaving the piano with 2 out of the 3 strings. A lot of times you're leaving it with 1 out of the 3 strings because you're having to shiv that, put that mute in there between the 2 good ones, or a bad one and a good one, I should say.
Is there an option to mute off like the second note? So there's 2 on one note and 2 on the other one, but the inner ones are muted. So you're allowing, or are they 2 spaced apart where that wouldn't work?
No, I think you can do that. Yeah.
I guess it would depend on which string is causing the
Yeah,
problem, and where you need to mute it at,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, and where it's draped down. But yeah.
You could probably cut one of those rubber mutes and wedge it underneath just that one string. If you work at it hard enough, I would find a way to do that. I would get my OCD out and take care of that. But that is an option if you've got one string that's bad.
So you put a little notch in the felt to make it grip so it doesn't thick enough. So
you just make it thick enough so it stays.
Okay.
Yeah. And generally speaking, if I that, because sometimes the rubber wedges can felt in there, for me it seems to be a better solution.
Bass strings, I hear a lot of false beats in bass strings, especially. That's why we don't. Exactly. Yeah, the quality of those strings are not great, and so usually a lot of false beats.
100. Any more questions there, Stacy?
That's it for today. Perfect timing. I think we got there, everyone's.
Spare, y'all.
Wow.
Somebody asked about felt, and I wanted your thoughts on that.
Mm-hmm. For felt to felt?
In that, as opposed to new one on.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm not a big fan of felt to felt. This is a good right there. A lot of times you'll just kind of glue on a piece right there. Mm-hmm. If you're like, wow, I'm a little bit on there. If it's little things like that, then yeah, I'm a fan. I'll do that. It used to be that I spent a lot of time restoring pianos. The materials, you have the chop, everything, but when you're in the field, you don't really have that. So I will say, as a field technician, yes, I'm a fan of that. As a restoration technician, I am a new felt since I have the time and the space and the supplies.
Okay, thanks.
One last question. Are you done, Joel? Okay. As opposed to the wool felts that you have to buy.
I'm a purist. Yeah, I'm a purist, and it's always been kind of the woven felt for pianos, and so I just stick with that. I'm kind of that way with carbon fiber action parts. Sorry, Kawhi. Sorry, Mason and Hamlin. Ain't a big fan. But that's me. Yeah, okay. Tradition, exactly.
Well, and I couldn't get the right size in the felt, so I used polyester that was in my sewing room. Sorry. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
The piano's going to explode in the weekend, Janice, because you used polyester. It's not a good thing. It'll be fine.
This is one quick question that's not it has to do with the action, but it's sort of a tangential thing. So
Sure.
so I have a person that called me yesterday asking me to come out next week to look at her sustain pedal, and she said that it goes down too far, and I said, okay, well, that's a little nut that you tighten to kind of adjust that let off, if you will. Okay. And she goes, well, I've done that before, and a couple other technicians have done that before, but there's still something wrong with it where it just doesn't want to go soon enough. And I said, well, and I was like, I mean, I can put my eyes on it, but I don't know if I would know what other issue would cause that besides that little.
Is it a grand or an upright?
It's an upright.
Okay, so it's a quiet upright. Yeah. And so is she saying that the pedal has to go down too far before it engages? Or is it overall not going down far enough?
It has to go down too far before it actually brings the dampers off the string.
Yeah, so that's 100%. That should be something that's that wing nut. Just so you know, I've had to do this lately, and that is because it only has one wing nut and it seems to unthread throughout the year of playing. I've gone through and actually put a little bit of tacky glue on the thread itself after I've adjusted it so that it keeps it in place. It glues and hardens and makes it so that kind of unwind.
Okay.
David, could there also be an issue on the rod itself?
Yes,
and how it...
Michael, you beat me to it. That's the only other thing I could think of is the rod itself. Maybe so that damper rod behind, it's this, behind the action. It could be that one of these or two of these brackets have broken. That the brackets themselves are not holding that rod in place.
Okay.
That would be the only other thing, in which case you'd have to buy, remove those brackets. You may have, I've had to do this where I have to take the rod and fashion new little pivot joints. It's a big deal.
And that goes the length of the piano?
Yeah, it goes all the way up to the end of the damper in the treble.
Right, yeah, okay.
All right, Friday morning, we may have some fun announcements. Who knows to make? We'll see. We'll go from there.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you Friday.
I'll see y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.